Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you the basic principle of how you do a bouncing ball practice. So, if I play this video, okay, you notice that I have the bouncing ball already being animated. Okay, so if I play from the start, this is what you get. Okay, so the idea of the animation is that you have to hand key, right? So you have to kind of like change the shape of the ball. So every time the ball hit the ground, it'll become squash, and every time the ball move up, it becomes stretch as compared to this original or initial shape. Okay, so in this position, the ball is jumping up, and you notice that there is a stretch, okay, happening on the shape. And when it hits the ground, okay, the ball is kind of squash. Okay, so that's what makes the animation alive. Okay, if there is no stretch and squash, then the animation will become very rigid, and it doesn't seem like the ball is bouncing around. So if I like scrub through this timeline slowly, you notice that when the ball is going upward, right, the shape change, and when it's in the air and it comes back and hit the ground, the shape also becomes squash. Okay, now your task in the next couple of videos is that you have to animate the ball that look like this. Okay, so the ball will start from the initial position on the top, and it will hit the ground here, and as you can see, it kind of like squash and goes up again, right, hit the ground, and every time it hit the ground, the height, right, also change. It become lower, lower, and lower, and eventually the ball will just stop bouncing. Okay, so rather than just going up and down, your exercise is to create a bouncing ball that will start from the top, it will hit the ground, and then bouncing up, right, and then like slowly it will become static, okay, not moving anymore. Okay, now one thing that you need to keep in mind when you are doing animation for this particular bouncing ball is that you need to change the pivot point. Okay, right now, remember the pivot point is in the center of the ball, and if you try to scale the ball, maybe it may not be accurate. Okay, so in the video, I think I changed the pivot point to be all the way at the bottom. Okay, so I'm holding D, right, to move my pivot around, so that way when I try to scale this ball, it kind of squash from the bottom. You see the different behavior? So I'll create another one. Okay, so if I scale this, they will scale like the top and the bottom portion because the pivot point it's in the middle. But once I move the pivot point to the bottom, it will only affecting the top. Okay, so I can do like that. It will only squash from the top direction. Okay, and you're also going to be dealing with graph editor, right? So if I go to Windows and then go to animation and then graph editor, right, so this is the main tool for an animator. Okay, so they're going to be dealing with so many curve and graph, and the way to open or edit this graph is by using this graph editor. Okay, so let's say I create a very simple, so I the top one, right, and I move my timeline. Okay, so every time you move your timeline to maybe this frame, right, and I push it downward, I can press S to set a key. Okay, so that means like from this, it will just go all the way down. Okay, so that's the basic principle of doing a keyframe. So every time you want to animate something, right, so you have to go to the certain keyframe, then move your object around, then press S. Okay, so that way you are commit, and then if you scrub to the timeline, so I scrub from here and go down, and from here we'll move that location. Okay, so that's basic principle of the animation. And if you want to delete certain keyframe, okay, go to this. This is 184. You right click and you can delete. Okay, so that keyframe will disappear. And again, if you want to move this guy to a different position, you go to certain keyframe, go there, press S, and when you scrub, it will scrub like that. Okay, so when you open up the Hyper or the graph editor, you'll get something like this. Okay, so this is the movement that is being translated into the graph. Okay, so if I look at X, this is my X value. So you notice that only move right from this point onward. Okay, in the beginning, it's only moving to the Y. So if I look at my Y, this is my graph for its movement. Okay, so it's being mapped to a graph. Okay, it starts from there and it goes down. Goes down like that, and it kind of like changed direction to this side. Okay, and if I want to go to this frame and I want to have like different location, I can move around and I can press again to override what was in this key. Okay, and okay, then if I scrub again, yep, we're gonna change from this to be there. Okay, so this will update also. Okay, so that's a basic navigation when you're doing the animation.